And we have breaking news out of the NBA where Nets star Kyrie Irving has begun the process to return to the Nets. That is per multiple reports. ESPN and The Athletic reporting that Brooklyn plans to use Kyrie in road games outside of New York City. He is still unwilling to fulfill New York City's vaccine mandate. Kyrie will not be able to play home games, but he will be able to practice with the team in Brooklyn as the team's facility is in a private building. He reportedly began team COVID testing, but a date for his return still not set in stone. As you take a look at the Nets' upcoming schedule, they're starting December 23rd against the Blazers. The Nets have been dealing with COVID issues, recently playing with as few as 8 players at a time. Let's talk more about that. Let's welcome in Avery Johnson here on the phone to talk about Kyrie's potential return to the Nets. Avery, so he will be playing road games outside of New York City. What are your initial thoughts when you hear that?
Well, my initial thoughts are I'm a little bit confused because the Nets could have allowed him to play from day one in road games and not have him on the sidelines. So I'm just a little bit confused by the timing, but at the same time, obviously, they've had a lot of COVID and health protocols situations. But is this game a lot more about Christmas Day when they're playing in a primetime game on Christmas Day? This could have been, a lot of people thought they were going to maybe wait until February, close to the trade deadline, and maybe try to move Kyrie. So I think this is going to be confusing. A lot of players in the NBA, fans are going to be scratching their heads in terms of the timing of bringing Kyrie Irving back, imminently.
Timing is questionable to you. Talk about mixing him into this team, though, because he hasn't been there all season, hasn't played a single game, and obviously this team is now in a groove. They're at the top of the East. How do you start to try to work him in just for some of the games?
Well, based on what we've heard in the NBA, in the CDC, I'm obviously not a doctor, but they were promoting, the vaccinations, and if you're unvaccinated, how susceptible you are to potentially catching COVID. I just don't understand some of the mixed messaging here, bringing him back into a situation where you also have a little bit of an outbreak in COVID cases, and now you're bringing Kyrie back in the mix, and he's unvaccinated. So I think the Nets, they'll have an explanation on why they're doing it, the timing. I'm curious to hear, what Steve Nash and Sean Marks, both the coach and general manager of the Brooklyn Nets, what's going to be their explanation. And then, what type of shape Kyrie's going to be in. How is he going to blend in with the team? Is he going to have, obviously, he's going to have different rules being unvaccinated when he comes back in terms of how often he has to test and being isolated from the team and maybe certain meetings. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of days as he starts to blend back in with the team.
About being confused a lot with and I'll repeat myself, you talk about being confused a lot with the timing of all of this. You mentioned that Christmas game. They're in LA, and then right after that, you got the Clippers. You also had the Bulls in that schedule. I mean, these aren't easy games by any means. Do you think that has a lot to do with this, the timing of all of it?
I'm sure it does, because you got to remember that, the NBA as a whole, they've been the best league, in my opinion, in terms of marketing their Christmas Day games. That's when a lot of NBA fans actually start to watch the NBA on Christmas Day. So it's going to be pretty interesting in terms of the viewership and how, and if Kyrie, if he comes back on Christmas Day, or will they try to get him some action the game before on the 23rd? But I just think it's going to draw more attention to the Christmas Day game in terms of viewership. And I know the NBA historically has always been ahead of the curve in terms of marketing and building their brand.
The Nets, as I mentioned, going into this, Avery, the Nets at the top of the East right now. They have had those COVID issues, but they've done very well, obviously, this season. You see the odds to win the NBA Finals right there. They're at the very top. They are favorited to win. Will the Nets be better with Kyrie, not for all of the games, but for some of them?
Oh, absolutely. When you're talking about, a guy that's going to be a Hall of Famer, I mean, Kyrie Irving, his ball handling skills, shot making ability, ability to close games, take pressure off of Kevin Durant. Obviously, James Harden is not quite the same player he was with the Houston Rockets, but he's still obviously capable of going for big nights when he's in the lineup. And Kyrie Irving, he can basically lead a team when they're totally healthy and Durant and Harden is out of the game. He can be the centerpiece of an offense. He's just that good. So bringing him back, getting him back in the mix, obviously it makes Brooklyn, a scarier team because he's a guy that can go off for 30, 40 points on any given night. And especially if he's only playing road games and then he's resting, when they're playing at home. And as you get deeper into the season, he'll be playing more of a college basketball schedule than an NBA schedule.
Avery, we know you're very busy. We appreciate you hopping on with us there to talk about the new reports. Kyrie Irving getting ready in the process of returning to the Nets, but again, not for those home games, still unwilling to fulfill New York City's vaccine mandate, but he will be able to play games outside of New York City and New York State there. So taking a look at the notable NBA games we've got coming up tonight, Lakers at Timberwolves. Want to mention there, Russell Westbrook has been cleared to play. He was put in the protocol yesterday, but again, cleared to play tonight for the Lakers when they visit the Timberwolves. Tip-off there, 10 Eastern. And the Christmas Day schedule that Avery was talking about, saying this is very interesting that Kyrie will likely be able to be back, although according to reports, he will have to pass a series of COVID tests before he can begin working out with the team. The Nets are scheduled to play the Lakers at 8 Eastern on Christmas Day.